Tilder!
RØDE Wireless GO versus PicoMic. Sound quality? RØDE. Distance? PicoMic. Battery life? PicoMic. So which one do I recommend? If you do narrative films, YouTubing, or vlogging, go for the RØDE Wireless GO. If you're an event videographer like weddings and lectures where you have no control over anything, PicoMic. Cost for a total setup? Pretty much the same if you want 2 mics, but if you only need 1 mic, the RØDE Wireless GO is definitely going to be cheaper.
Done! Roll that intro!
What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker, where the answers comes first, the reasons come last, but we're constantly and always still learning. So today we are going to take the RØDE Wireless GO versus the PicoMic. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker, where the answers comes first, the reasons come last, but we're constantly and always still learning. Today we're going to take the RØDE Wireless GO versus the PicoMic. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker, where the answers comes first, the reasons come last, but we're constantly and always still learning. Today we're going to take the RØDE Wireless GO versus the PicoMic. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker, where the answers comes first, the reasons come last, but we're constantly and always still learning. Today we are going to take the RØDE Wireless GO versus the PicoMic. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker, where the answers comes first, the reasons come last, but we're constantly and always still learning. So today we're going to take the RØDE Wireless GO versus the PicoMic. What's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker, where the answers comes first, the reasons come last, but we're constantly and always still learning. So today we're going to take the RØDE Wireless GO versus the PicoMic. Okay guys, we're outside in a parking lot. There's really not a whole lot of structures really nearby for the PicoGear or PicoStream to be bouncing signals off of. So I'm just going to keep talking and turning around approximately 50 feet each time to see if you can still hear me. And of course, this whole line of sight test to see if you actually need to be facing the camera. We're nearing 50 feet now as I turned around, and this is what I sound like. I actually have a wind muff on here that's not made by PicoGear. It's actually made by RØDE, and that's because there is a little bit of wind out here as I turn around at 100 feet. There is a little bit of wind out here today, and I just wanted to make sure you're not hearing that wind distortion versus like actual distortion when you can't see me. I'm going to turn around and continue walking. Now, this still talking, la 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 la, Peter Piper pecked a pickled pepper or something like that. Anyways, I'll turn around again. I'm at about 150 feet now, and I'm only going to stop this test once I make my way to the edge of this parking lot, because generally speaking, you're not going to be filming that far away with this audio. So I turn around as I continue walking away from the camera. Not really sure what you're going to be hearing right now. I had assumed that by now my voice should sound distorted as it struggles to figure out where the receiver actually is. But as I turn back around, we're probably hitting 250 feet at this point, and I'm still just walking backwards as I slowly make my way to the edge. I'm turning around again. I am pretty much at the edge of the parking lot, the last parking space, but I'm going to keep going to the sidewalk over here. And at this point in time, you probably can't really hear me. As I turn around one last time, I am at the sidewalk at the furthest end of this parking lot, and this is approximately 300 some feet, maybe a little bit less. But at this point in time, I'm going to walk back towards you, and I'm going to keep talking. Okay, this second test is a little bit unique, and this comes from Gordon of Camera Labs, and he said, have I actually tried where the receiver is not horizontal, but it's actually perpendicular to the camera, so it's actually facing me in terms of how this orientation is faced. So let's see if this actually helps the distance. So here we go. As down here, approximately 50 some feet away. Let's keep going though, and as I turn around here, we're a little bit over 100 feet away at this point. I'm still walking backwards, and I'm sure you're going to be able to hear me as I'm doing that.
About 150 feet, a little bit more. Again, I really don't think anyone's going to be filming someone this far away, especially in a narrative situation, because chances are how you're framing me, you're just going to have the audio recorder guy somewhere nearby. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So we're hitting the edge of the parking lot at this point, which is a little under 300. I'm almost at the sidewalk. So here I am, approximately, I would say 100 some feet away. Again, I think you should be able to hear me just fine. You should be able to hear me just fine. In terms of distance, it probably increased it just a little bit. We'll find out. I'm going to close the door and go into the adjacent room, closing the door. So now there is currently one wall in between us. I think you can still hear me. This is not a solid wall, just a wooden wall, so not a big deal. I'm going to now make my way to the furthest end of the property. And now you've got a kitchen, a living room, blocking everything, multiple walls. Some of these are solid, so if you can still hear me, great. And now I'm going to actually go outside of the property altogether, and you might even hear that lawnmower somewhere. So now there is brick walls that's blocking everything. I'm gonna walk a little bit outside. There's a little bit of wind, so you might hear that. So anyways, this is the most extreme filming conditions, and if you can still hear me, awesome. I'm gonna now make my way back into the property. And boom, closing doors, making my way back to the studio. I'm getting closer, closer. I'm still talking so you can hear me. I'm about to hit into the studio. 3, 2, 1, and I am here. Okay, so with the RØDE Wireless GO, I'm gonna do the exact same walk path just to see if you can still hear me when I'm going in and out of rooms and all that other good stuff. So here I go. I'm walking my way out of the office. I go into the adjacent room, and right now, just for reference, my body is facing towards where the camera is. I'm now going to turn around and keep talking to see if my body is going to block the signal. I'm turning back around, so if I cut out just for a second, that's because my body was blocking the signal. I'm now walking out towards the living room and then to the kitchen. Again, my body was more or less facing away from the camera. So now I am facing at the camera. If you can hear me, that's because I'm facing it. I'm now going to turn around as I go outside. So if I cut out, you know why. And here I go. I'm opening the door and I'm making my way outside. And now I am facing towards the camera, but obviously there's a brick wall and all that good stuff outside. I'm going to walking again, testing 1 2 3. I am still outside, but to see if you guys could actually hear me or not. So here I am coming back indoors, and as I walk towards the kitchen, if you're still hearing me, then that's good. So here I am walking towards the office again, and I'm landing in 3 2 1. I am in, and here I am. All right, guys, and that pretty much concludes the audio testing portion of the RØDE Wireless GO versus the PicoMic. But here is the major question. Which one do you actually go for your filmmaking needs? Well, before we get into a couple other things, we need to set up the situation so it's more or less apples to apples. So in this comparison and versus episode, I'm going to assume you're planning on purchasing 2 RØDE Wireless GOs to match the dual channel functionality of the PicoMic wireless system. But there's a little step further. You're also going to be purchasing with the RØDE Wireless GO a very simple DSLR 3.5mm jack preamp for your right and left channels, because you need to have more finite control than just the receiver's decibel output. Because if you do the cheap version where I used a stereo mic splitter episode here, If you do it that way, you really only have 2 notches of output. And generally speaking, if you're going into the GH5 and you place someone at -6 dB instead of -12 dB like I am doing now, you're most likely going to clip out and there's nothing that's going to save you. So in this scenario, it's going to be 2 Rode Wireless GOs plus a very basic 3.5mm stereo preamp going into your DSLR versus the PicoMic wireless system. And surprisingly, at the time of this recording, the pricing between these 2 setups is actually very close. For the PicoMic wireless system, it's currently at $450, but when I first knew about it, it was at $500. So I'm not sure if the $450 is the new pricing, but we're going to go with that right now because that's what it's going for. Just know that it could be $500 if this is just a $50 sale. When it comes to the Rode Wireless GO setup, you are actually only spending $460, $400 for 2 Rode Wireless GO units, and $60 approximately for a nice DSLR 3.5 stereo preamp on your camera. All right, with the testing bed and apples to apple comparison setup out of the way, it's pretty much down to the bottom line. Which one is right for you? To me, I kind of think it's really cut and dry here. When it comes to doing narrative films, YouTube vlogging, where you're in a controlled environment and you're not extremely far away from the setup, you're gonna wanna go with the Rode Wireless GO, hands down. If you're shooting lectures, live events, especially when it comes to weddings, hands down the PicoMic wireless system. And I'm gonna break down a couple bullet points here and try to explain to you why one system is gonna be better than the other. First and foremost, sound quality. It's the easiest one to hear between the 2. When it comes to sound quality, hands down, the Rode's got the much better sound quality, simply because the transmitter has a much bigger design, so the capsule inside is much larger and it has more room for its own circuitry. Whereas the PicoMic is so small, the capsule is so small, there's a lot of digital processing that you probably heard, and that's something that I don't really have control over, so you're gonna get that type of sound coming from a much smaller capsule. So when it comes to narrative films, you do want to have a nice full sound and all that other good stuff. So the Rode is gonna help you there. Not only that, the Rode has a mic input. So you can do your own lavalier mic like I am right now, or a shotgun mic, or pretty much anything with a 3.5mm audio port. You're gonna be able to have a lot more options when it comes down to getting the sound you want in those narrative films. Now, what about the PicoMic? I still like the audio quality, especially for events, and here's why. When it comes to weddings specifically, the PicoMic excels because of distance and battery life. It excels at distance because you're able to still get audio even if they turn around in an open field up to close to 50 feet. And the battery life obviously is awesome because who's filming 20 hours straight anyways? And the fact that you can turn off the microphone from a distance without actually having to go up to the groom or anybody else to turn it off, that's really great. You're basically gonna be able to last all day long, no problem. When it comes to these types of shooting situations, I would much rather use the PicoMic because I would rather get audio than not get audio at all. I would fear for my life using the Rode Wireless GO in a wedding situation, especially the moment they go outside, and if the groom turns around and I'm not in front of him, or maybe I am in front of him and he turns around to say something to people, I'm gonna lose audio and I'm gonna have to run around and try to get it before I lose the chance of capturing the audio and the shot. With the PicoMic, I'm not afraid of that at all. I'd rather get audio than not get audio at all. Now, this kind of goes back to the whole sound quality argument. Yes, I totally understand. The Rode has the much better sound, but here's the thing. We hear it, but the audience doesn't hear it. And with all our non-linear editors now, a denoiser, a compressor, a couple magic tricks here and there, and you're able to clean it up pretty well. It's not perfect, but you can at least clean it. Add the fact that you're using background music, there's cheering, or there's other ambient noises, it's gonna sound just fine. So that being said, when it comes down to it, live events, hands down, has to go to the PicoMic wireless system. I would not use the Rode at all. Are there moments where these two can intersect? Yes, but I still think it's cut and dry. If you're gonna do YouTube and controlled environment stuff, go with the Rode Wireless GO. If you primarily do things that you have no control over, go for the PicoMic. Now, again, at the moment of this time with the testing beds, I basically put it to the point where they are at the same price point. However, maybe you don't need a dual wireless system at all. If that's the case, then again, figure out what's your shooting situation. Because if it happens to be narrative film sets, the RØDE Wireless GO is going to be your cheapest option because you only need one, so $200 is going to do it for you. But again, if you're doing live events, go for the PicoMic wireless system. Now that being said, PicoMic is working on some sort of XLR module that can accept XLRs and I believe a 3.5mm jack as well, or you can use an adapter going into it. Either way, you're gonna be able to do something where it's going to compete head to head against the RØDE Wireless GO. That is when it's going to be interesting, because here's the question that I'm wondering about. If the new PicoGear's XLR module is going to also have 20 hours of battery life, and it's probably going to be larger, so it has better preamps inside and circuitry, and maybe it allows you to say, hey, do you want to turn a limiter on? Do you want to turn the noise reduction to -1 dB, or do you want to be really heavy on the noise reduction or noise gate, what have you, and give you some more options? Assuming it's nearly at the same price point, it's just a different module, that could be very interesting. Then I would have to see, okay, so which one of these is going to be better? Because if PicoGear creates this ecosystem, and let's say that receiver can use a PicoMic and a Pico XLR module, what have you, kind of sort of like what Sennheiser is doing with that XSW system. If PicoGear does something like that with the same type of battery life and performance and distance and all the good stuff, that would be awesome. That PicoGear creates this harmonious system of microphones that all works off of one receiver. If they do it that way, I will be very, very excited to see which one's actually going to come out on top. So until that actually happens, we'll see. But for now, that's pretty much it, guys. If my video has made any sort of influence for you in terms of which one to purchase, I would truly appreciate it if you check out my Amazon affiliate links down below. Again, this costs nothing extra to you, just gives me a little compensation so I can continue making videos like this for you. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave it down below. I will get to them as fast as I can. But until then, like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you guys in the next one.